Good afternoon, everybody. It's Effective Resume Thursdays. We're very glad you're with us. It's August 27th. It's hard to believe another month is almost coming to an end here. For those people who are on Zoom, we ask that you sort of use the speaker view. That way you'll see the speaker on the right-hand side and the PowerPoint slides on the left-hand side. And that's what the screen looks like in the lower left of your screen. And where that little red arrow is, you can grab those little white lines and you can slide it back and forth. So if you want to make the speaker bigger or smaller and make the PowerPoint bigger or smaller, you can adjust it to however you'd like to make it effective for you. Please note this event is being recorded and is currently live on Facebook. The recording will be on the Career FW Facebook page and on the Career USA YouTube channels for others to view in the future. By participating in this event, and if you post a comment in the chat box or have your microphone or camera on, you give consent for your comments, name, picture, and picture to appear. For those people on Zoom, if you have any questions, just please put them in the chat box. We'll be using the chat box and the participant box throughout this presentation, so just be aware of that. And we are monitoring the comment box on Facebook, so that if anybody has any questions on Facebook, we will get those questions answered for you. We are going to review 1 or 2 resumes today live online. If you'd like to submit a resume, we already have one. So if we have time, we'll do the second one. If you'd like to submit a resume, if you open up the chat box and you'll see the little file button there where it says the little blue arrow is, you can attach your resume. You can either send it to everyone or you can just send it to Carol if you'd like. And if you want, please delete your header information before you submit the resume, because remember, your information will be on Facebook and YouTube. All right, well, good afternoon. My name is Jeff Morris. I founded Career DFW back in 2008 to help the unemployed in the DFW area. In 2012, I started CareerUSA.org to help people outside the DFW area. Since 2007, I've been facilitating and leading the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group. And I'll tell you about our program at the end of this presentation that we have coming up tomorrow. And since 2017, I've been a member of the practice interview team. I'm very glad to have Carol Brickell with us. She's a certified professional career coach who specializes in resumes and everything. And she's been doing this presentation for a while. We're really glad we're with us. So Carol, thank you for being with us.
Great. Thank you, Jeff, for the introduction, and I always appreciate all the work that you do. And I will go ahead and share my presentation. I'll get it into presentation mode. There. Can you see my slide okay?
Yep, you're good.
I always like to do a double check. All right, so it's Jeff mentioned we will be using the interactive features of Zoom today. We like to make this fun and interactive, and we try to provide very informative and real-world examples. And your job is to listen to all the different perspectives and choose what works best for you. Because whenever you ask somebody about their opinion about resumes, you'll get all sorts of different answers. So it's up to you to kind of take it in and decide what works. If everyone at this time could hover over the lower part of their screen and click on the participant box, and I will do the same thing. And when I look over here, I'm just looking at my second monitor to see the participant box. And if you could, if you've attended one of these Resume Thursday sessions in the past, click on the green check mark. If you've never attended one of these resume sessions on a Thursday, click on the red X. Okay, good, we have a mixture. And we designed this program for a mixture because every week I bring in new content, mix it up a little bit, and every week we show a different resume as an example. And then there are some basic things that we do review every week, but we cover them slightly differently and we get different questions. So we try to vary it and make it fun for everyone. Good. And now at this time, if you could click on the chat box, and I will do the same. Let's see. First I'm doing the same thing and moving it over to my other monitor. Good. And so to get us warmed up using the chat box, if everyone, all the participants could go into the chat box and type in the job title of the type of positions you're looking for. And the reason I ask this is I've recently retired from Next Step Recruiting, but I still do special projects for them, and I'm always on the lookout for candidates for them. And every week they keep me posted of their hot jobs. And so it's good for me to know what kind of positions people are looking for. So if you could go into chat and type in the job titles of a function you're looking for. Good, getting lots of good answers here. Good, financial analyst. Okay, good. I'm gonna be sharing in a few minutes some hot jobs. There's a financial analyst job. Okay, good. HR, executive assistant, VP business development. Good. Lots of good variety. So if everyone could go in there, that'll help me. Okay, good. That'll help you too, because I might be able to get you connected with the right recruiter to get presented and be presented at the top of the stack. Good, good. And by way of background, I've been a hiring manager for many years. I worked in a big IT firm called EDS that was acquired by Hewlett-Packard in 2008. And in 2012, I opted to take their early retirement package because I felt a calling to get out in the world and work for a recruiting agency so I could really understand how the job market works. So that eventually when I became a career coach, which I am now, I would have all that background knowledge. So I spent about 6 years working in both an agency recruiting and a corporate recruiting environment. And I've placed candidates in a variety of roles: IT, learning and development, HR, accounting, finance, project management. So I've placed people in a variety of roles, and I have a lot of experience looking at hundreds, if not thousands, of resumes and presenting them to hiring managers and getting feedback directly from hiring managers regarding what they like and what they don't like, about certain resume formats. And like Jeff, I volunteer for the Dallas Pit Crew. That's the practice interview team. And if anybody wants to, and I would highly encourage you to practice your interview skills. People spend a lot of time working on their resumes, and that kind of gets you your foot in the door. But an interview is what gets you the job. So you should spend also time practicing your interview skills. And Jeff and I have seen week after week, there are certain traps that people fall into all the time. And so a little bit of practice can really help you be successful. So if you'd like to do a mock interview, you can submit your information, and Jeff has shared the information about the Pit Crew. You just have to send an email to dallaspitcrew@gmail.com with your resume and a sample job description, and we'll put together a panel and do a mock interview with you and give you feedback. And then I'm also certified by the Professional Association of Resume Writers and Career Coaches. And today, as I mentioned, I retired from Next Step Recruiting, which is a wonderful staffing agency. And this week, their hottest jobs are a financial analyst. So if you meet these requirements and if you're interested, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn and I can get you connected with the right recruiter. So they're looking for a financial analyst. They have multiple accountant positions open. So if you're an accountant in any capacity, I know they're also looking for a property accountant, a tax accountant, and then a couple of senior accountant positions as well. Also accounts payable positions. If you have any of those skills, please reach out to me, and I can get you to the right recruiter. And then also a new hot job, credit collections manager position. These don't come up very often. They're great positions. So if you meet these requirements, please, please, please reach out to me. Or if you happen to know anyone, reach out to me. And then I don't know if anybody's a title examiner out there, but I wanted to let you know there are about 8 positions open that are remote job positions, but you do need to have 5+ years of experience. And then also Next Step Recruiting does look for HR people as well. So if you're HR coordinator, generalist, or HR manager looking for a position, let me know. And then also they do have some IT project manager, developer positions. And I saw some people, they have a whole IT division, and I can get your name to the director of that division. So I always like to share what's going on in the marketplace. And this is our agenda today. We'll talk about applicant tracking systems because that's a very common topic and people have a lot of questions about that. So we review some information every week, and every week I do a little bit more research on that particular topic. And then also I'll be sharing some hot resume tips regarding looking for a job during the pandemic. And then we'll talk through the key components of a resume, and we will look at a sample resume. And I'm very pleased our participant today has submitted 2 versions of their resume. One that's an ATS friendly, and then one that has a little more formatting in it for a recruiter to look at. So that'll be fun to look at both of those. If anybody else would like to submit their resume, we might have time, and if not, you can reach out to me. In fact, anybody's welcome to reach out to me if you have any questions about your resume or your job search. And as I'm talking, you're welcome to submit any questions that you have in either questions or comments in the chat box. And we all learn from each other. We all have different perspectives and different experiences. And so it's fun. If you think you know something more than I do, please share it in the chat box because, you know, 20 minds are better than one. We've got a great group of participants today. So a word about applicant tracking systems. When you apply online, this is where your resume goes. And what that system does is it parses the data in your resume, takes it apart and puts the data in different fields, names, dates, jobs, job titles. And so you don't want to have any special characters in the resume that you upload to the applicant tracking system. When I say special characters, I mean special bullets, those little fancy bullets. Just use the default little round bullets, boxes, tables, that can foul up the parsing process. And then also don't use the header or footer section because that data won't get read by the applicant tracking systems. But you do want to be sure to use keywords that align to the job description, and we'll talk a lot more about that. And if you want to test out how your resume aligns to a job description, you can use a tool online called jobscan.co. And if anybody's used that and has had success, if anybody's used JobScan.co, type a comment in the chat box. Let us know how that worked for you. I have one client that used it and it really helped him. He thought he had aligned his resume to a job, but he only came back with a 40% match. And he realized he was using slightly different language. Instead of improved processes, he wrote improving processes, so it didn't match. So, and somebody, one of our participants has used it and likes it. So it's valuable to do a spot check on your resume against a particular job description. And also with applicant tracking systems, you do have the opportunity to upload your resume as an attachment. And that's the version you can use a little more formatting if you wish. And in today's session, we'll see an example of both.
Carol?
Yes.
Can I ask just a quick question? Again, it was JobScan.co?
Yes.
Yeah, all one
Yes.
word.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, and even if you Google JobScan, you'll find it. Yes.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Good. And then also you can attach cover letters often with applicant tracking systems. And I'll tell you honestly, as a corporate recruiter, we would often get about 300 people for every job posting that we posted. And the applicant tracking system would sort them by how well they matched. And so I'd have time to maybe look at the top 10%, but I'd usually get interrupted. And that's 30 resumes. And I might make it through the top 5 or 10, maybe. And I never had time to look at the cover letters. So don't spend a lot of time on them. However, it's good to have a format because there are times when you do want to send, like for example, if you've applied for a job at a company and you have a colleague there, you may want to send a cover letter and a resume to your colleague so that they can forward it and advocate for you and forward it to the recruiting manager there. So sometimes they're useful, but I say don't spend a lot of time on them. That's just my opinion. And a little bit more advice about applicant tracking systems, because sometimes we can kind of go down the rabbit hole and try to figure out every little nuance about how these ATS systems work. And each system, Taleo, iSIMS, and the ATS component of Workday, all work differently. And every company that implements them differently. And every recruiter has different methods that they use when they're looking at resumes. So don't try to overthink it. Just try to upload a resume that has no special formatting. And then in most situations, I know Workday gives you the opportunity then to look at your data to make sure that it got parsed correctly. So it doesn't say Brickell, comma, PMP in my last name field, because it may do that. It may read your name and any commas and any, or in my case, CPCC, Certified Professional Career Coach. So you may want to clean that up a little bit. So most ATS systems give you the opportunity to review the data and make any tweaks if needed. And then don't lose track of making contact with a person. And in today's environment, you are much more likely to get called for an interview if you contact a person after you've applied online. I'm going to ask a question. I'd like you to type a number in the chat box. When you apply online for a job on LinkedIn or Indeed or anywhere, what do you think is the percentage chance on a scale of 1 to 100 that you'll get called for an interview? If you online on a scale of 1 to 100, what's the percentage chance that you'll get called for an interview? I read a statistic in Forbes, one of the Forbes articles I've read, and it matches my experience exactly. And a couple people hit it right on the button, 2% chance. So that tells you that you have to take that extra step to follow up with a person. And somebody, I'm looking over here to the chat box, somebody asked a question. Yeah, the ATS system may parse your name incorrectly if you have degrees listed after your name, like MBA or PMP or whatever, JD. It'll include that in the name field, so you may want to clean that up really quickly. And yeah, 2% is absolutely accurate. Like I said, if I had 300 applicants in the system, I might get to 5 or 10 of those resumes, and I'd call a few people. So, and when I say contact a person, people say, who do you contact? Well, first of all, see if you know anybody at that company, a first or even a second level connection. Maybe you know somebody who knows somebody at that company that you could talk to, and then they could advocate for you and send over and kind of re-forward your resume and your cover letter over to that recruiting manager to get you to the right recruiter. Or contact the recruiter who posted the job if you can see the name of the recruiter on the job posting. If you don't know the name of the recruiter, what I recommend, and this is after working in corporate recruiting and in agencies, go one level up, go to a leader, somebody who has their head above water and can get you to the right recruiter. So go search on LinkedIn for a recruiting or talent acquisition leader, director or manager in that organization. Contact them and say, hi, I'm Carol. I just applied. I wanted to introduce myself. I just applied for your corporate recruiting position. I have 5 years of experience and I've used iSIMS and I meet all of your requirements. I'd be happy to come in for a conversation. As a recruiter, a recruiting manager, I would always invite those people in if they truly matched the job. If they told me and they did match the job requirements, I always invited those people in for an interview, and those were usually the people I hired. Okay. And then somebody said they connect with people at the company and find them who the recruiter or hiring manager is if it isn't listed. Yes, and I recommend try going through the recruiter first, because their job is to screen all those candidates and select the top 5 based on the criteria from the hiring manager, and then present those to the hiring manager. Because as a corporate recruiter, I would get the CFO walking down the hall and say, Carol, I had another guy call me again. Can you screen this candidate for me? I'm getting all these phone calls. I don't have time for this, because it's not their job. You know, they're running the finances for the company. It's not their job to screen all these candidates. Now, if it's somebody you know, I think that's fine, but make friends with the recruiters because they can advocate for you. And so that's my recommendation there. Unless it's a small company and maybe they don't have a recruiter. So, okay. And then somebody mentioned the hiring manager and it's somebody they know. Yeah, absolutely. That's a whole different ball of wax. Yeah, great. Okay. And so now we're going to talk about a few resume tips during the pandemic. And I also have a handout that goes along with this that we'll post in the chat box with links to various government websites too, with some interesting information. And this Forbes article that's in my handout has some really good advice that especially during the pandemic, your resume really needs to be very clean and on target, and don't use too much jargon, especially acronyms and buzzwords and even organization names that were used in your organization in your previous jobs, because that won't mean anything to a hiring manager. And thank you, Jeff, for posting the handout. So you can go into the chat box and just download that and read it at your convenience after the session. So it'll give you links to these articles and then some other government websites that'll be helpful for you. And then also I'm getting feedback from recruiters in your resume. Don't include too many overused buzzwords like I'm a quick learner or I'm team oriented. Those kind of soft skills that everyone needs to have, are detail oriented. I mean, everybody needs to be have a good attention to detail, and everybody needs to work well with the team. Don't use those overused phrases. Now, if the job description says they're looking for somebody with a specific skill, like the ability to deal with ambiguity, then it might be good to use that word in your summary description about yourself. But don't use those overused words that everyone needs to have. Recruiters get really tired of that. And then also, we keep saying, focus on your results in your resume, but don't put every result or every accomplishment you've ever done. Focus on the right ones that are applicable to the job that you're applying to. And then don't have an overwhelming format with different columns and headings and colors. Whiz-bang, just make it clean, simple, easy to read. And I'm going to ask another question. Type in a number. How long do you think it takes each recruiter spends looking at each resume? So how long do you think a recruiter spends looking at each resume? Somebody's heard this before. Yeah, what a great audience. It's 7.4 seconds. And I can attest to that. I used to say it's between 5 or 10 seconds. Yeah, y'all are right on the money. So your key skills need to jump out in the summary section, and then your first few bullets in your most recent job need to be impactful, relating to that job. Great. And then here's another good article from a recruiter at Indeed. And he said, actually read the job description for the jobs you're applying to. True, really read it and study it. Look at the language. Really understand what they're looking for. A couple of weeks ago, I was helping somebody align their resume to a job description. And the first thing we did was we studied the job description to get our heads around what they were really looking for. And this person was, I don't know, I think they're accounting program manager. But as we read this job description, the job, they were really looking for a data scientist. I mean, something different. And it took us really studying the key requirements and the skills. And so once we studied it, I said, do you think you should apply for that job? Do you align to those skills? And they said, actually, no. And so it would have been a waste of time to apply for that. So read the job description and study those keywords, and then modify your resume accordingly. And we'll show you an example of that. Include keywords from the job description and make your qualifications easy to find. Lots of white space, bullet points, strong, impactful verbs. And then somebody made a comment. What's interesting to see on job descriptions is where they ask for detail-oriented person, and then they have several typos in their job descriptions. That's hysterical. So if in the job description they say they're looking for somebody who's detail-oriented, it's okay to maybe mention that overused phrase, but that's really hysterical if they have typos. Yeah, and I see that in resumes. Somebody says they're detail-oriented, but then their spacing's off or whatever, and that's all I see if there are even spacing issues. And then here's some additional guidance during the pandemic that I gathered from several articles. One is research employers and industries active hiring mode. And what I've discovered as I've kept up with my colleagues in the recruiting industry, some companies are really struggling and some companies are thriving because they've discovered which companies are hiring. And one company, the Next Step Recruiting, where I recently retired from, they actually placed more people in the last 3 months than they did in the prior 12 months because they are pinpointing companies that have a real need right now. So if anybody does want to get their resume in front of a recruiter at Next Step Recruiting, especially if you have accounting, finance, or HR, or IT, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn and I'll get you connected. They are doing a super job and they are super busy. So, and even if you're a recruiter or a recruiting coordinator, let me know because they may need more people. And then add remote friendly keywords in your resume and your LinkedIn profile that you're comfortable using, remote technology such as Zoom, Skype, and everything, and that you've maybe facilitated meetings with people in multiple locations, and monitor social media for prospective job opportunities. I post things on Facebook. And so, yeah, keep looking everywhere. And on LinkedIn, I just shared a really cool little video, just a 2 or 3 minute video with somebody sharing how they do job searches just using Google. And then it goes out everywhere to LinkedIn, Indeed, Career Builder, everything using Boolean searches. So go to my profile on LinkedIn and you can click on my most recent post. There's a really good little short video that somebody posted on how to do creative job searching using Boolean searches in Google. And then create a job hunting system for success for yourself. So put together your schedule, your goals based on what works best for you, and be mindful of your own time because there are a lot of wonderful webinars. And even though I love having people come to these webinars, I want you also to be mindful of your own time and make sure you allocate time for your job search and for the networking and for informational interviews that you're doing. And you should be spending 40 to 50 hours a week on your job search. It is a full-time job. Okay. Let's see. And then turn your employment gap into a gain. And this is very important. And if you are currently unemployed and are looking for your next position, be sure to be doing things that you can talk about so that when the recruiter asks, so what have you been doing since 2018? That you have some very specific, powerful things to talk about. And you can even list it on the top of your resume. And just yesterday I was coaching somebody and they added the words community leadership and consulting to the top of their resume, and they wrote 2018 to present, because while they've been going through their job search, they've been doing some pro bono consulting. Even if you do some help with your church, like helping them with job searches or helping them with their spreadsheets or just administrative support, even if it's pro bono consulting work, you can list it. You can just say a nonprofit organization. Or seek organizations that need help and try to find a leadership position and turn that gap into a gain. Or you could say consulting and continuing education and get a certification. I see a lot of people getting their green belts or their PMP, especially if the jobs that they're applying for are requiring those certifications. Or if you're in HR, get your PHR. Okay. And somebody has volunteered by making face masks. Yeah, doing volunteer work and showing leadership, especially if you're training other people. And somebody has a long comment about LinkedIn. So some settings are not correct for that LinkedIn. Okay. And that went to everyone so people can read that comment. Okay, great. Okay. So these are some resources. As I've been searching about guidance for job seekers during the pandemic, I found some excellent resources. And in my handout, I have links to all of these. The first one was an organization I'd never heard of, IHIA or something, and they have some good guidance for employers on processes they need to go through to reopen. And it's good for us as employees and potential job seekers to be informed so that we can ask appropriate open-ended questions when we're looking for a job or going back to work to ensure everyone's safety. And also the Centers for Disease Control has some good guidance for employees and employers. And the EEOC has an excellent Q&A section, and I have the link to that in the handout. Things like the questions that people can ask in interviews now during the pandemic surprised the heck out of me, because I'm used to the HIPAA rules where people can't ask about medical conditions, but actually the guidance has changed and they can ask you if you've had COVID symptoms. And if you're applying for a job where you have to start on Monday and you have symptoms on Friday, they can withdraw the job offer. I mean, there are some interesting things out there. So I highly recommend going to the Q&A section on the EEOC website. But it's good to be aware of the Americans Disability Act verbiage, where employers really do need to give reasonable accommodation to people with disabilities, including people that may have suppressed immune systems. So, and so if you need to work at home a little bit more based on your immune system, you can request that. And then OSHA has some great guidelines, and they have a little job aid for employees, how to keep safe in the pandemic. So those are really good tools. Now we'll spend a few minutes reviewing some resume formatting information. Again, you want to make it really clean, lots of white space, overall length. The sweet spot is about 2 pages. There can be exceptions in some industries like government, higher education, highly technical jobs can be a little bit longer. And then people always ask me, and thank you, somebody said this information is appreciated. I love doing research every week to prepare for, okay, I think about what's the newest thing I can share with the group on Thursday. So I'm glad you're appreciating it. And I think we have a polling question, because I often get the question, how many years of service should I show on my resume, especially if I have a lot of experience. So if everyone can use this fun poll to say, what works best for you with your resume? Does it work best to show all of your years experience? Like when I applied for a job at the age of 60 and I showed everything from 1980 on, but I was networking with people that knew me. They knew I'd been around the block a few years, so it worked well for me, but not everyone does that. And then I see a lot of resumes, and as a recruiter, I would see a lot of resumes that were cut off at 10 years. And we'd get into the job interview, and when I'd ask them a question, if they mentioned a company or an experience that wasn't on their resume, it would cause confusion. So the option that I recommend most often is actually the third alternative, where you show details about your most recent positions and then have a heading that says prior relevant experience, and list maybe a couple, 2 or 3 company names that you worked for in those job titles. You don't have to list the dates, but at least you're showing the full story. And hiring managers really do want to see that full story. So you may want to consider that. Good, and thank you for answering the poll question. So we'll talk through the key components of a resume using this format that I've developed based on feedback I've gotten from hiring managers. It's also the format that they teach in my certification program and also in the training modules for the DFW career transition workshops. This is one of the formats that's very similar to this. So you should have a heading and a summary, then an optional key accomplishments section, your professional experience, and then the optional previous relevant experience, and then education and software skills. The heading, you want to make it really clean, easy, and you don't need to put your physical street address. Zip code's optional. You want to put your email, and you want your email to kind of closely match to match your name. And if there's already somebody out there with your name, just add some numbers to it or something, because otherwise that can cause confusion. And put your LinkedIn address. And I'm hearing from most ATS systems, just put in the text, don't make it a hot link, because that can foul up the parsing process with some systems like Workday. And in your summary profile, This is the section that you absolutely need to modify every time you're applying for a job. And this is a summary of who you are as a professional. And you should include areas of expertise. The magic number seems to be 9 bullet points. Anything more gets to be hard to read. And key accomplishments is an optional section. And I especially see people that are in sales or business development or recruiting, and even some financial jobs where you have a lot of financial data or targets to meet. This is a good thing to do to summarize your accomplishments over your most recent part of your career. So that's good. And then professional experience, make sure it's a reverse chronological order, easy to read, with the dates for the full dates for the company out here to the right in bold. And make sure your verbs for past jobs are in the past tense. And very often I see the word lead when they meant led in the past tense. And I even Googled that. It's a very common mistake because the verb read and read is spelled the same, but lead and led are spelled differently. So a little funny thing there. So make sure that jobs of the past tense, the verbs are parallel, meaning they all end in the same thing, ed, not ing. And somebody asked, is there a reason that areas of expertise is left justified? Left justified. The columns, I guess, as opposed to centering. I guess so they look kind of like columns. I just took out the table so I don't know if that answers your question, but it wasn't a table, but I actually just took out the table so it doesn't mess up the parsing, and just left it like that. So it's lines up. Okay. If anybody has any comments about that? Oh, the title. Somebody said the title. It could be centered if you want. The title, areas of expertise, if you prefer to put that in center, that actually could be centered. Probably the reason that I have it left justified, sorry, I'm going back to that slide, is because it's all part of this kind of summary section. And sometimes if the job title doesn't align directly, or if you're making kind of a transition, you may just use the generic term professional summary there. And this is almost like a subheading. So it just kind of fits in that summary section. So that was sort of my thought process for that. And in your professional experience details, try to limit that to 5 to 8 bullets. Do not have 15, 20 bullets for every job. That's too many. A hiring manager would never read those. And focus on results that are related to the jobs that you're applying to. And then somebody said, what do you think about bolding the major achievements under experience? Best practice for writing is not to bold certain words within a section like this, because it's almost telling the reader, I know you're not going to read this, at least read this word. And it's not a best practice for writing, for business writing, to add bold phrases within within text. And then how does parsing handle scrum, idle, ITSM, slashes without spaces? I think, Jeff, you've made a good comment about that.
You've got to put spaces in between there. If you want to put, scrum, comma, space, ITIL, comma, space, that's okay. But if you were to put that like that, and if somebody put that in as a requirement, they would not find you because they would have to type it in exactly as you have it.
Yes. Yeah, thank you, Jeff. And so what you have to do is write for the machine. They're not going to realize, oh, those are 3 separate things. They'll think that's all one thing. So write for the machine. Good question there. And if you have multiple roles within one company, what makes your resume stronger is if you show the full years you're with that company, bold, right, justified. And then the years that you're in different jobs within that company, don't have those right justified. Bring those over closer to the job titles. And then that way it shows progression within that job, shows longevity, it shows that you were promoted. Otherwise, when I see people doing it the other way around and putting those dates for the jobs right justified, it looks like at first glance, remember, we only spend 7.4 seconds. At first glance, it looks like you're a job hopper. So this is the recommended approach. And then if you have a company that's changed names, either give the current name of the company followed by the old name, or the old name, possibly with the date of the acquisition. And for example, when I was applying for jobs when I retired from Hewlett Packard Enterprise Services, my resume said Hewlett Packard Enterprise Services, formerly EDS. Or I could have said EDS, acquired by Hewlett Packard, and they were acquired in 2008. So you can decide what works best for you. And then somebody asked a great question. What is my thoughts about a one-page bio versus a resume? Thanks for bringing that up, and I may add that next time and go into a little deeper. But at a high level, those are two different documents used for different reasons. Resumes are used when you're searching for a job. They kind of announce, I'm looking for a job. They kind of announce that. If you're doing more informational interviews, you're reaching out for somebody and letting them know that you're seeking their advice regarding their career, and you want to give them a document that's a little softer that just shows your experience so they can get to know you, a one-page executive bio is good for those conversations. Or when you're just networking with people and you don't want to scream, I'm looking for a job, just want to have a gentle conversation, networking with people.
Also, you can post your bio on LinkedIn, but do not post your resume on LinkedIn, because your resume should only be submitted when you have a job description so you can customize it. By posting a generic job description, generic resume on LinkedIn will not do you any good.
Oh, that's great feedback. But Jeff, you did say it's good to post your executive bio.
Oh, I think, yeah, a one-page bio is an excellent document because it tells somebody sort of who you are, what you do at a high level, and it may cause them to pick up the phone and call you.
Yeah,
And it's great for networking, because if you're going to have an informational interview with somebody, or you're just reaching out to somebody for the first time, you're not screaming, I'm looking for a job. You're just saying, this is what I do.
excellent. And Jeff, you told me about a book that has a whole chapter about executive bios, and it's available on Kindle. He's leaving his chair to go get the book.
You're in to go get the book right here. So it's called,
Oops, it's disappearing.
yeah, it's called
There we go.
Be Sharp. It's by Minna Brown and Paula Asanoff. It's a great, I highly, highly recommend this one. Whoop. Wow.
If you could write the title and her name and
Yeah, I'll put it in the chat box, but I think it's a great book to have. It tells you all, the first half of the book is all about your 30-second introduction, and the second half of the book is all about the one-page bio, and it has like 30 different bios. The second edition has like 30 bios in the back of it, so it's really a great book.
Yes, and I'm glad you asked that question, because in the last few weeks, as I've been coaching people, about every other person I've coached, I've asked them, do you have a one-page executive bio? And they say no. And I've shared a format with them that I have permission to share. And a lot of my clients are starting to use that and help them in their job search, especially people at the leader level and director level and above, the leader level. And somebody, Jeff, do you have a response to this really good question that came in the chat about somebody trying to post their bio on LinkedIn, but it didn't load? Can you?
Well, because you're trying to load a PowerPoint. It's not a PowerPoint. Make it a PDF. A PPT is a PowerPoint. Try to load a PDF instead of a PowerPoint.
Okay, thank you. Great advice. Good. And then be sure to include your education software skills. And again, look at the job description to see if there's any particular software that they're looking for that you have experience. And then be sure to add that in your resume. Good. Okay, this is one of my favorite slides here. And Jeff, I'm going to try that new fancy way of annotating this time. And people that have seen this before, instead of trying to draw a circle, I'm going to use the, yeah, there we go. I'm using the Zoom function that has circles already pre-built. That looks
I'm just looking up Be Sharp on Amazon. If you happen to have Kindle, if you happen to have the Kindle Unlimited. It's free on Kindle Unlimited.
Yes, I got that. Excellent. Good. So when I've talked about aligning your resume to the job description, this is the exercise that I recommend you go through. And this is where I spend a lot of time with people going through this exercise, because you have to kind of learn how to do this. But basically, what you want to do is study the job description. And I don't recommend spending hours doing this. Just spend a few minutes studying the job description, and then a few minutes updating your resume. And so that should take 15, 20 minutes. So it really shouldn't take that long, but it'll be worth your time so that you kind of jump to the top of the pile. And what you want to do is really study the keywords. Like in this situation for this business analyst job, they're looking for somebody who can document business requirements and somebody who can improve processes. So be sure to have the word improve processes, not improving processes. And somebody's asking a question, what's available free on Amazon Prime? It's that book that Jeff just posted in the chat box. If you have Kindle, you can get it for free. Good. And I'm back to, and they're also looking for somebody who can do process flow charts. Be sure to look in the requirements section or qualifications sections, or what you bring to the job section of the job description. Look for any special methodologies. And if you've got that experience, be sure to include it. Look for any special software. Include that in your software skills. So it really should just take a few minutes, but it does take practice to get used to doing that. So hopefully that's helpful. Oops, clear all, exit, okay. And then now at this point, I will stop sharing my PowerPoint. If you have any questions, please submit them in chat. And at this time, I will bring up our sample resume. Let's see if I can do this. I mean, it always takes a couple extra steps. Share. Have I gotten into a loop? Here we go. I'm going to do something else. So I'm bringing up, and I don't know if I can use the name of the person that submitted it. Well, it's on the resume. So thank you, Sandy, for submitting this. And you have submitted 2 versions. And the first version I'm showing is the applicant tracking version. So ATS friendly version. So it doesn't have any special formatting. I'll get rid of these little things here. Okay. Okay. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to scroll down this resume. I'm going to spend about 7.4 seconds doing that, like a recruiter would look at it. And I want you all in the audience to take a look at this resume and then type in a few keywords about what you like. And if you see any opportunities to make it even better, go ahead and type that into chat. So this is the audience participation part of the presentation. So we've got the good header, the name, phone number, everything. And the modified LinkedIn, you took out all those special numbers. You can do that by just going to your profile, and on the very top right of your profile page, you can edit your URL, and it looks like you've done that. And you are a human resources executive, and you can modify that every time you apply for a job. Signature HR qualifications, human resource experience. So you're with this company, and you had a couple different jobs with different dates on them. And we'll come back and talk about that a moment. And then there's another section called business experience. Okay, with some different experience. Okay, and education, certification, affiliations, and volunteer work. Good, good. And we do have a few comments. Like agile leader. Somebody said like agile leader. Somebody likes that word. Yeah. Empowering agile leader. That's cool. Long name. Yeah, your name will get read as Radke Sherm SCP. You'll just have to clean that up.
And I don't know if it's necessary to put your middle initial in there. You know, unless that's something that you use unless everybody calls you Sandy L, there's no reason to do that. This is not a legal document. This is something to get them to call you. This is the worm on the fishing hook.
Yeah. You want to make it clean, because even just adding that letter for your middle initial is just extra text that you have to think about. Business experience, maybe specific for the job, or put at the end. I like the business experience. I'm gonna put it is at the end. Yeah, we'll talk about that in a moment. So I like that your opening is only 3 lines long. You do have a lot of areas of expertise, and it's kind of hard to read. Now this is the version for the ATS system, but I think in your version for recruiters, it's laid out kind of like this as well. I as a recruiter prefer the columns because I can read it easier. This way the text kind of mashes together. And then somebody asked about the font size, font and font size. Times New Roman is okay if you like the serifs, the little squiggly things. I'm hearing more that people like Calibri or Arial better because they're more sans serif without they're more clean text. You know,
Got it.
Yeah. So, and font size 11 or bigger. 10 is too small, especially for Times New Roman. So,
Yeah, and I think some of these qualifications like ADP, HRIS, some of those probably could go down into a
software skills.
software skills section.
Got
Yes.
it.
Instead
And
of-
you want to list which HRIS. There's a lot of them. Yeah.
Right.
So, okay. The
Yeah.
biggest comment I have is it looks like you were at Cytel from 2008 to 2020. So
Mhm.
2008 to 2020 to show the full time that you were there. That shows longevity. And then for each of these jobs, put the
Got it.
parentheses, move them.
Okay.
Yes. And then Jeff, I'd like your opinion about this. I do like the tagline, one line about the company. I get thrown off by that space.
Yeah, I think I would delete the space
Yes.
and get rid of that comma after safety. I don't think you need that.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes. That's a
Oh,
typo.
space, open paren,
Got it.
dates, close paren. Yes.
Mhm.
And then I was reading this paragraph and all the sentences here, they all start with verbs. And so I was wondering why these were in a paragraph and then these were bullets. So I didn't know if there was.
Yeah, I mean, starting with developed should probably be the first bullet point, maybe.
Yes,
You know,
that's what
2
I'm
or 3
thinking.
lines is okay, but that's it.
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
Well, I think that, your first sentence is fine. Well, your first 2 sentences probably is okay, but then starting with developed, I think that should be your first bullet point.
Got it. Okay. Yep.
And did we play the So What game today? I don't know if we played that game today, did we?
No, we didn't.
Oh, so, I think it's real important that as you read something, all right, so you increased engagement and retention by 90%. I would maybe move that to the very beginning of your sentence. Tell people the result first.
Okay.
The second one.
So what game is basically,
Outdated HR system into a fully integrated HRIS platform. So what was the benefit to that? We need results.
and then we have a comment from a senior copywriter, communications professional out there, that they say left justified text is hard to read. So, okay.
She's got these fully justified, it looks like.
Oh, okay. So how should it be?
I don't know. So the person who's the copywriter, if you could add an additional comment, or feel free to take your microphone off of mute.
Yeah, I think Mary's saying left justified is what it should be, not fully justified.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Right.
Fully justified. Okay, got it. Got it. I agree with that. I would, yeah.
it
Thank
should be
you.
left justified, not fully justified.
Right,
Right.
right.
Okay.
So like, let's see if I can, like that.
Right, there you go.
Okay, good. We're
Got it.
starting out of time. So change the dates. And then Jeff, I'd like your opinion about this. So we show all the HR experience, and then we have a section called business experience with jobs that are interspersed chronologically. You know what? I might say just additional business experience and just list the company names and titles, because those aren't really applicable.
Okay.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't know if you need all the text. Jeff, do you have any input on that?
Yeah, I don't think you need to say business experience. I would just say other
Professional experience?
professional experience.
Yeah, other additional professional experience. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And in your case, you may want to list those dates so it doesn't look like gaps. It's kind of
Correct.
gaps. Yeah.
I guess that 2003 to 2004 needs to move up next to MG design, or move it up.
Yes. Same
Oh,
about the dates.
yeah.
For
Got it.
every one of these, the dates needs to be on the same line as the company.
Okay.
Usually recommend having the company name in bold, city name in bold, the date in bold. So it's all consistently bolded on just that one line. So it's okay.
Mhm.
Okay, good. So I think we're out of time. So thank you, Sandy, for
You're welcome.
sharing. Great.
Do you just want to, did you want to quickly just show that other one?
I need to give Jeff a few minutes, but if
Okay.
Yeah, we have a holdout at 2 o'clock because there's another group that jumps on our Facebook page at 2 o'clock. So
Yep.
I'm sort of pushed to get out here.
Yeah.
You can follow up with me offline, Sandy, if you'd like.
Okay. I just thought for the group, but I understand completely.
Right. So this is Carol's LinkedIn profile. If you want to reach out to Carol, you're welcome to do so. Please send her a personal note. Let her know how that you saw her in today's presentation. I've gotten 3 invitations today without any personal notes, and I'm not connecting with any of those 3 people. So you're welcome to connect with me. Send me a personal note. Very, very important. Okay, for those on Facebook, if you'd like to get the sample resume and cover letter, or the information on what to do during the pandemic and stuff, send me an email to webmaster@career.fw.org, and I'll be glad to send that to you. And I know we didn't post the resume and LinkedIn and the cover letter, so I will do that here in just a second. So for those on Zoom, don't drop out. Join us tomorrow. I talked about the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group. Tomorrow's presentation, a very interesting presentation called the Job Search Scorecard. So do you feel like you're not sure if I've spent enough time really doing what I need to do during the day to get my, to look for another job? Do I feel like I'm just spinning my wheels? We have a PhD in organization development who prepared this several years ago when he was in job search, that he then used to go, okay, well, when I hit 35 points a day, I know I've done all I can do for the day. And how he set his goals. And if you're in sales, he says he had a friend of his in sales who set 50 points a day. So it just sort of depends on who you are, but it'll be an interesting presentation if you're trying to decide what you should be doing during your job search. Next Tuesday, join us, Locke Alderson. Tuesday at 1 o'clock, we'll be talking about LinkedIn. We do that every Tuesday. We have 3 rotating speakers, and sometimes I'm the 4th. And then Wednesday at 1 o'clock, our interviewing Wednesday will be on session number 5, analyzing the job description. The first 5 lessons have all been about preparing for the job interview. Lessons 6 through 10 will be actually doing stuff during the interview. You can find all the information on Zoom and on the Career.fw Facebook page, so you can join us. These sessions have been recorded, will be recorded. We will post it up on the Career DFW Facebook page, and I'll get it up on the Career USA YouTube channel in a couple hours as soon as the computer finishes processing the video. Please follow us on Facebook. If you follow us on Facebook, every time we go live, you'll get an alert on your phone saying Career DFW is currently live. And if you subscribe on on the YouTube channel, you'll find out when we post new videos up there. If you go to YouTube, this is what it looks like. It's the Career USA YouTube channel. If you click on playlist where that green arrow is, up will come the 5 or 6, I think there's 6 different playlists I've created. If you click on interviewing, just underneath there it says view full playlist. View full playlist under effective resumes. Up will come a list of all the sessions we've had in the past. And you can watch any of those over and over and over and over and over again. So please remember, Career DFW is just a 501c3 nonprofit organization. Carol's volunteer. I'm a volunteer. I don't get paid to do this. We're all here to just help you land your next great opportunity. That's what we're here to do, to help you find your next great job. We survive on donations. We ask that you please consider, when you do get your next opportunity, think about the help that you may have gotten from us. Please make a donation so we can continue to do what we do. If your company offers matching donations, please allow your donation double in value. And if you don't see our name on the list, please look us up and I will be glad to get our name up onto the list. So I will post the T cover letter and the resume here in just a second. For those on, for those people on Zoom, like I said, if you want them on Facebook, you can do that. I'm going to stop the Facebook feed, so give me just a second and I will get the items up to you all.